Well, Chris, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah, finally.
No, it's good. I'm glad we were able to make this work.
Yeah, Dan says good things about you, Representative Gelbach.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, I like Dan a lot. He obviously, having done that, I'm a critic of how the job's done, and he's doing a great job. I'm really happy to have him as my legislator. So
yeah, well, I wish he was my legislator.
No, how about you don't wish you were your legislator?
No, I wish I was. Yeah, exactly. Or maybe not. I don't know.
Well, it's always, careful what you wish for. I tell these people, you signed up for this duty, so it's.
Yeah, I watch them scurry around and go drink from the fire hose, I think, well, maybe not winning was okay.
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah.
So when did you serve in the legislature?
I was elected in 2008 through 2020.
Okay.
So 12 years. Yep.
Okay. So you did serve with Rob Taylor then?
Oh, yeah. Yep. No, well, I was there. I think I was there before and after him. Yeah. So
yeah, he was done in 17.
Yep.
Yeah.
So no, we, some of those West Side suburbs, we do forums together sometimes, and the issues were similar. There'd be times like, things are sometimes unique for suburban versus rural or whatever. So yeah, I worked with Rob on a whole bunch of stuff. Okay.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he went on to make whiskey, and you went on to fight for better, lower taxes.
He was able to escape, and I'm not. I just the politics is keep me in. But it's it's good. I get to continue working on some of the things that I enjoyed working on when I was in. I mean, it's not the only thing I care about, but it's a great fit for me, and I'm having fun. So,
how did you get from being a legislator to starting Iowans for Tax Relief, and tell us about Iowans for Tax Relief?
Well, when I came out of the legislature in 2020, and it's a period of time that I think a lot of folks are trying to forget about. Was 2020 that was all of the insanity around COVID. And so I'm leaving the legislature at a time that the legislature actually shut down. And so we didn't even reconvene until I think we came back in June of that year, trying to think about that, and got done. And so I knew I wanted to get out of the legislature, look around, see what some of the options were. And then the whole world just sort of froze in place. And so I took a few months, and it was, I had some ideas that kind of things I wanted to be involved in, but I actually ran into Chris Hagenow, our organization sort of CEO over our whole family of organizations. I ran into him over at Walnut Creek Baseball over here out in the parking lot, and he was heading out of one of his games. So I chatted with him, and it just went from there. So it was a perfect fit. I think as soon as we sort of had this 5-minute conversation in the parking lot, we both knew that this was probably the direction we both wanted to go, and it's been great. It's been
How long
fantastic.
did it take to get from that 5-minute conversation to up and running?
From the day that I actually started the job was probably a couple of months, but for a number of different reasons, but just things take time to process and everything. Yeah. But Iowans for Tax Relief's been around for over 40 years, and so it was. And the history of the organization, if folks have really been, it's kind of back in the over say 10, 15, 20 years ago, the organization was much different and much bigger, and really had a lot of influence over conservative politics in Iowa, and then sort of waned and almost went dormant for a few years. And then back in probably, I don't know exactly when, 15, 16, 17, sort of started to pick it up and get things moving again. And then obviously when I came in 20, I was able to pick it up and try and take it, yet another step further. And it's different than it used to be, and in ways that I think are good. I mean, every leader, I think, comes in with a little bit different attitude about how they want an organization to be and all that. So there's a lot of blue sky. And I think we are growing, not just in the strength of the organization, but our ability to actually move the needle on these issues. So I'm excited. I think there's a lot of opportunity. And as I joke with people too, I'm kind of rambling now, but we have a set of leaders in this state that make a job like mine really easy, because, I talk to other folks from other states that are doing similar work, and, they're fighting their own, whether it's Republican or Democrat, they're fighting their own leaders, trying to get them to even take up the idea of tax reform or whatever comes from the conservative agenda. And yet we just keep clicking away at getting some of these things done. So it's great.
Yeah. We've got a good group.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a good session for tax reform.
We'll see. It's always, I liken the start of legislative session to the first day of school. The world is new, everything's shiny and clean,
right.
and everybody's optimistic, and you're going to get some things done over the course of that school year. But I guarantee you, by late spring, everybody's sick of it, and they think, "What a waste of time! I got to get out of here." So there will be some good things done, and I think there will be disappointments that come out of it as well. So,
of course. I don't know if you've talked with Simon Conway about it, but. Yeah. His idea is to do something like Wyoming was trying to do and get rid of property taxes altogether.
Look, I am more than happy to entertain anybody's idea on a path to eliminating the property tax. Now, historically, our organization has been about eliminating the income tax, but we also are over here knowing that Iowans are really frustrated with their property tax. So we're up for all of it. At some point there needs to be some level of taxation somewhere to fund government. Right. I know the left would love to and continues to criticize, like, well, we can't do all these things we have to do if you cut taxes. Like, well, wait a minute. We understand that you need to have police and fire and courts and jails and roads. I mean, we know those things, right? So we're not anarchists, but I think, and most Iowans instinctively know there's a whole lot of things that government does that it doesn't need to do. There's a whole lot of priorities that still can be set in order to try and drive those rates down. So yes, if there is a mechanism to eliminate the property taxes, I'm in. Let's throw the ideas on the table.
I love it.
I think it is an ambitious goal. We'll put it that way.
The mic's kind of hot. I'm gonna have to ask you to quit playing the drums over there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've had too much caffeine today, so just keep telling me.
Do you want some more caffeine?
Yeah, let's go. Let's get it wired up. So,
well, you've got water there, but
well, good.
Well,
my apologies to the folks that don't enjoy the percussive sounds. So
right. It's always tricky, you know. It's like yeah, it's always tricky. So. Let's talk about your website a little bit.
All right.
I pulled it up this morning to kind of get a good look at it, and there's a lot of good resources there. Yeah. Caleb Winey, he came to one of our men's group meetings and talked about a little bit about Iowans for Tax Relief and what you guys are doing. There we go.
So, just by way of kind of housekeeping on this is what you got pulled up as Iowans for Tax Relief, which is an organization that I represent. And Caleb, for example, we're all part of the same family organizations. And Iowans for Tax Relief is a 501c4 organization that does sort of the active political work of trying to get elected officials to do the right thing.
Right.
We have our 501c3 kind of a think tank kind of thing. That's ITR Foundation. And Caleb actually works for them directly and does our outreach. Obviously we work together all very closely, and you get a lot of the research and the like I said, think tank kinds of things. So, and maybe if we have some time later, I'll walk through some of the other projects, those two organizations.
Sure.
But yeah, so anyway, great. Folks that are watching kind of understand the difference. If they've maybe looked at the ITR Foundation website and it's like, well, I don't remember seeing that. They kind of know. So anyway.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't know if I'll put this in the video or not, but it's, it's great. Your front page. I mean, you have this 2% property tax growth limit proposal, basically. What's that about?
Well, what our main proposal is that, and maybe I'll try and frame this up. Iowans are mad about their property taxes, and frankly, they've always been mad about their property taxes. One thing that folks may not realize is that Iowa's income tax was created over 100 years ago to try and provide property tax relief in the state. Because it was so big, it was getting so much, and folks were frustrated, they created an income tax to try and offset that. So this isn't a new problem. but it has grown in recent years. And Iowa's local governments are growing their budgets much faster, not only than the state budget, but they're certainly growing it faster than Iowans' ability to pay the bills. I mean, you have cities and counties raising their budgets year over year last year by 6.6 and 7.6% respectively, year over year in growth.
That's what happened here.
That's too much.
Yeah.
And so even though the legislature has passed two different efforts at property tax reform over the past several years, I think one was in 2018 and the other in 2023, the problem persists, is that these local governments are still finding ways to spend beyond Iowans' ability or willingness to pay. So anyway, that's the problem. And what we have said is that because local governments broadly, and there are some good elected officials at the local level in Iowa, don't get me wrong, and there's some cities in counties that are doing it well, but they have not largely followed the example set by the state legislature. Over the past several years, the state legislature has limited spending and in return been able to enact tax cuts to give folks back their money. Locals aren't doing that. They're continuing to spend through, and that's a Republican or Democrat problem at the local level. So because locals won't control their spending themselves, we believe it's time for the legislature to enact spending caps for them. A couple of years when we did the last reform bill, we said, hey, why don't we try freezing this for a year? Well, that was seen as crazy and couldn't do that. So we're back this year. How about a 2% growth? We're not even saying that local governments need to cut their spending. I mean, that they'll scream and cry that that's the suggestion. We're just saying, why don't you grow a little bit more slowly?
Right.
We're just trying that. So anyway, so that's the proposal. And what you have up here on this chart is we actually did polling on this question. And we, multiple times a year, ITR Foundation will run a broad poll of Iowa politics. And we do it through a reputable pollster. In fact, they were, if you look at a place like 538.com, our pollster was one of the top rated pollsters in the country. So it's not loaded stuff like the Des Moines Register and the Iowa Seltzer poll. This is like, the real gold standard in Iowa polling. Are you enjoying how long my answer is to this question?
What was the question?
Yeah. No, but I want to get to this because this is important.
Take your time. Take your time.
So we asked Iowans, do you support the concept? I mean, the actual language is right here. Do you believe the state of Iowa should pass legislation limiting the amount by which local governments can increase property taxes each year to 2%? 68.6% of Iowans said, yes, please do that. What's really interesting if you dig into that, and that's not on the screen here, obviously a large portion of conservatives or Republicans agree with that concept. Over 50% of Democrats agreed with that. So this is a nonpartisan, a bipartisan. Iowans want real action because that's a strong statement, I believe. And now, if you ask them the follow-up question, what do you want to trim back to get there? Well, that gets a little dicier, right?
Right.
But I went through all that so folks can understand that this isn't just us throwing something out. We think this is actually a reasonable proposal, and it's supported by, wide majority of Iowans. Because I don't know, there aren't many things that 70% of Iowans agree on anything political.
Exactly. No, I mean, I think I know knocking doors, that was one of the biggest issues was property tax payments and increase. On my men's group I have a men's group of business owners and community leaders. Yeah. Property taxes in the top 3.
Yep.
What do you think, okay, explain this. I know it's a little bit convoluted, but how does your property tax work? I mean, we get the bill. It's we think, man, this is crazy. Where's all this money going?
Right.
How does it work? Where is it going?
Well, that's the part of the problem. The problem's multifaceted. Iowa's property tax system is incredibly complicated. We now have achieved simplicity in our income tax. It's a 3.8% flat tax. You got your federal deductions and all that, but where your standard deduction. But by and large, that's pretty easy to get your mind around, right?
Right.
There's all these different taxing authorities. You got your cities, your counties, your schools, your the broad lawns here, and your hospital, Dallas County, all of that, community colleges. There's a lot of line items on that and how they're broken out, and inside each one of those, for example, we're here in Dallas County. Well, that's not good, but there's different debt obligations inside of that. Are they going towards, before we did this reform bill in 2023, there's 30 something different types of property tax levies that cities and counties could enact. It's not just a general levy. There's a basic service levy, and there's a debt service levy, and there's all these different things. And one of the things that the legislature did do in 2023 is start to try and draw that down to make it a little bit simpler, not so many different levies, and try and force it into one. So that's the problem is your property tax dollars are going a whole host of different places, but about half of your property tax payment is going to public schools, depending on where you live. And then cities next, and then counties after that.
Okay, so the city has to have a budget. They have to pay for city services, and then the county, et cetera, same kind of thing.
Yeah, they each levy individually. It's not that there's one thing and they all have to fight over who gets what portion of that bill. So the school portion of that is fairly formulaic. The legislature sets that. You hear this fight over supplemental state aid. We used to call it allowable growth, and that sort of drives what that amount of funding is, and then the property tax levy almost flows mathematically from that. But cities and counties have a whole lot more discretion to set those tax levy rates. And so I think that's actually a place where we can make a real difference now.
Yeah.
Is in those budgets.
Well, and ours went up 7%,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I went to the first hearing on it, and the room was packed.
You went to which one, the city or the
county?
The county, yeah.
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 Caleb was there as well.
I was out there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
you were there. Yep. My opponent wasn't there.
Yeah. Well, and that was, in the end, I think mine was almost 15% on the Dallas County. And that was frustrating because we live in Dallas County's the fastest growing county in the state of Iowa. There should just the growth alone should be able to fund whatever they need to do year over year. But that was on top of the growth. They went and got more from us.
And that was my comment. My comment was, as a business owner, I mean, if you're growing and you're servicing, you're getting more income, your debt or your service to that should be smaller.
Right.
It should go down,
Economies of scale, you know.
Right.
So, yeah, it's exactly right. So it's frustrating. And it.
Why does it keep increasing? Why can't they rein that in? I mean, what are the issues?
There are things that, if I'm being charitable to our local, there is inflation. I mean, as simple as, you know what, the price of gravel is more than it was last year. I can see that, or, your folks need whatever, cost of insurance, health insurance benefits that goes up, and in our business, our organization, we pay more than we did last year to provide the same benefits. But the problem is, and this is where, you need to dig in deeper, is there cost savings inside of those, or are you just signing off on whatever big ticket item gets handed down? I know here in Dallas County, they talked a lot about, they'd done a whole bunch with bike trails, recreation trails. I think if you remember that. Well, okay. That. I mean, I think a lot of people enjoy those, but I don't know if I enjoy them enough to build a bike trail out to Redfield to the tune of, literally hundreds of dollars a year. So, it's about setting priorities. We can't do everything we want to do every year.
Right.
So yeah, every community is different, and we can't at our organization. We're a statewide organization. We can't be in 99 counties and 900 and some odd cities, and we can't look at all of that. So one of the goals, and hopefully we have time to get into this later, is trying to get folks engaged at the local level, to get you to go out to your Board of Supervisors meeting and talk to them and make them defend that.
How much influence does the Board of Supervisors have on the budgets and the tax rates?
They should have total control over it.
Total control.
Okay. Now, most boards of supervisors, city councils are going to be largely deferential to their staff. They have a county, especially the size of Dallas County or Polk County or wherever you're at. I mean, it's a big enterprise, and you've got a full-time finance person that's running the numbers that tells you this is where we need to be. That if you want to say, no, I don't want to do that, now you're taking on somebody that probably has a lot more knowledge than you do about it.
Right.
And that can be tough. I acknowledge that, but it's my response to that is, well, you signed up for that duty, and folks are counting on you, because one of the things I remind folks all the time is that they will talk about the needs of their budget. Well, we have these needs, and our budget requires this, or the police budget and the public works budget and the parks, but what's always lost is the family budget. Why is my budget not as important to consider as your budget? And so that's another one of those things that we try and highlight in this.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And why is it that, I had a friend that moved here from Colorado, and he said that his taxes were like 3 times higher, his property taxes.
It's every state does it a little different. And the fundamental thing state by state is what the range of services that they're trying to provide off of property taxes. So some states don't fund their education at all off of property taxes, so their tax rates obviously would look lower, and some states might fund all of it, or a range of other services. And so a lot of times it's apples to oranges, state by state, on property taxes. But it is interesting to note that property taxes are a problem across the country. Sure. There is the Wall Street Journal had a good piece a couple weeks ago, just of all the different battles that are being fought across the country in various states. And again, blue states, red states, over folks' property tax burden. It's not unique to Iowa.
So with your background and all the work you put into this, what would you see as an ideal system for property taxes and our tax system? I mean, like just an overhaul. If you could overhaul it.
I have a lot of thoughts on that. It's because you're talking about taking a system that is incredibly complicated, that's over 100 years in the making, and blowing it up and starting over again. I'm not sure that you could just remake the property tax system. I think you would have to, if you really wanted to just chuck the entire system, you'd almost come over here and have to talk about every other form of taxation and how it fits together. Because, for example, school funding is a mix of state dollars and local dollars. And so if you take one out, you're remaking the whole thing. Anyway, we need to bend the cost curve down over time. And I'm accepting some political realities, is that, for example, within schools, whatever you and I might think as strong fiscal conservatives, Iowans want well-funded public schools. They just do. And that's why the legislature continues to fund increases year over year to public education. It's one of the first bills they do every year. Okay, well, we might not be able to extract a lot of cost savings out of a system that, we talked about 70% of Iowans want a 2% cut. I suspect that a good, healthy majority of Iowans want more money for their schools. So how you square that? The point being, I think you have to find a way to fix the cost inside of these systems. And I think we have to continue. So to answer your question, we need to continue down the path of simplicity. Instead of having all these different kinds of levies, is to bring it down so that Iowans can understand it better. I think we need to then start trying to slow the growth in these rates, so that over time you make it become more affordable. And then I think, which, again, I still want to talk about some of our local initiatives, but you get more Iowans involved at the local level in expecting and demanding change. If, you've looked at politics at the state level, I was up there. If you do a major sort of political, if there's a bill that comes out, universal school choice, you got educational savings accounts, or we did voter ID, or we did collective bargaining reform, or an income tax bill. Iowans come out of the woodwork on both sides of the issue, flood the state capitol, and make their voices heard.
Right.
But I'll bet, how often are they down at City Hall? How often are they? And those are the things that probably directly impact their family's budget. So, I think one of the, hopefully over time, and it's one thing that our organization is really working on, is trying to get Iowans to start engaging at the local level to expect some of those changes as well.
Yeah. And one of the things I noticed too is there was a notice that went out, and that was part of the new law that they had to send a notice to Iowans about any sort of increase like that. And I wonder if something at the local level couldn't.
Well, we did this. Yeah. These forms that went out, which were supposed to say, hey, look, you get the statement of your bill, right? And it's got all the numbers on it on the backside, and here's what's going to the brucellosis fund and so on and so forth. But you get that in the summer. Well, they're passing the budget in February and March. Well, I can't do anything about it when I get the bill in the mail.
Right.
So the effort is to try and get the notice out when they're actually making the decision that's going to impact what that bill is.
Right.
And so that was something that was done in the 23 reforms, which is to say here, okay, you're going to get this notification and here's how much it's going to go up. Well, the problem is this notice didn't really say how much your bill is going to go up. Well, what the goal is say, here's the budget hearing. It's going to be on March 3rd at 7 p.m. at the Dallas County Courthouse. And if they pass this, your property tax bill is going up $300 at the county level, or overall in total, it's going up by $1,200. Well, that's a number I can use as an individual taxpayer. I don't need to get out a calculator. I don't need to go to a website to figure out what my bill's going to be.
Right.
And so then when you get that notice in the mail, and you remember this, that says this, it's like, okay, well, I'm mad about that now, or I need to know why they need this money. The question you asked me, where's the money going?
Right.
So now I'm gonna go to that meeting. Because I need answers. That's the goal. So we got to get this notice fixed, because right now it's just confusing.
Yeah, it was confusing. Although it did generate interest.
Oh, yeah. It did.
In the meeting.
Yeah.
And, gosh, before COVID, I was not involved in politics. I mean, I served on planning and zoning because, I've got a construction background, and I thought that was important. I helped with the comprehensive plan and et cetera. But I haven't gone to a single Clive City Council meeting.
Yeah.
So do you recommend that that people go to those meetings?
Yes. Yeah. An entry point to that is, at least I know here in suburban communities, I don't think every community probably does it quite this way, but you can sign up for their email notice. I mean, I live in the city of Urbandale, and so I get their notices anytime there's a parking ban for snow, or the trash collection schedule is changed, but you can also sign up to get notices of when the city council meetings and the minutes. And so you'll know when those are going to happen, right? It gets signed up, so you're getting the information, and then go to a city. If you can check ahead of time what they're going to discuss at that meeting. If they're just going to talk about, dog licenses, maybe that doesn't interest you. Maybe it's not the right one to go to.
Right.
But if they're going to discuss a new bonding referendum, hey, wait a minute, they're talking about putting me $43 million in debt for a project I probably won't use. I probably ought to go, maybe I might like to know what they're talking about. Right. So, you get yourself in the loop. But yes, I think anyone that cares about these issues, well, I think everybody should, but folks that sort of think the way you and I do about politics and government should absolutely visit a local city or county meeting.
Were there many people that showed up for that? Especially when they were going to do that, what was it, a $43 million?
Yes, there were. There actually was a lot of. Yeah. I mean, you kind of picked up on what I was referencing to. Was Urbandale had the Uplex, which is a recreation complex right up around the corner here, and there was. I did that. I went to. They had a public information meeting where you could give some feedback about the project and see all the renderings, and there was a lot of people at those. And I said, this either bodes really well for the city or really well for the people that don't want this project, that there's this many people paying attention to.
What was the vote on that?
83% voted no. Now, just so you know, that didn't just need a simple majority. That had to get a 60% yes to pass.
Right.
Because you have to, on those kinds of bonds, it got 83 no.
How much of that had to do with, didn't they make a law that those referendums, the votes had to be during an election, an actual election, not just like spur of the moment. Let's sneak this in.
Yeah, it used to be that they were on a cold, snowy February Sunday at 3 a.m. is when they have these ballot initiatives, and now they have to be on a general election day. So they're on Tuesday in November. And that's when you have them. It does increase turnout.
Yeah.
I think that was going down either way. There was just a lot of folks that were against that, and there was a really heavy turnout. Thinking, relatively speaking, a lot of people showed up for that one.
Yeah, if there's a need for that, let a private business open it.
And it was interesting.
Because they're going to charge you for it anyway. It's not like they're going to charge you $43 million and then charge you to use it.
Well, that was the thing, so it's there's basketball courts and whatever, but I got kids that are involved in this stuff, right? I got one that's especially involved in youth sports, and they were going to lease out those basketball courts to different clubs. And it's not like it's open for anyone in the community to just walk in and shoot hoops. Maybe you'd have open gym from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night. So
kind of like the fancy gym at Northwest High School.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, it is.
The gym they have there. When we toured the school, I asked if they let the public use that at all. They don't. No. Not like Guthrie Center.
Yeah. I was with my son. He's 14, and the Mid-American Recplex out there in West Des Moines on Grand. Now, whatever you think of that project, I think it's been largely successful. But
we've used it a lot for soccer, indoor soccer.
Yeah,
they've got
that's what my son plays, and the place is busy all the time. And I don't know if it's cash flowing positive, but the one thing is they got a lot of private, it's the Hy-Vee Mid-American Recplex, and there's a lot of sponsorships. And so we were walking out of there one night. It was right before this vote happened in Urbandale, because now every community wants to have their big Recplex.
Right.
And it had, you see this everywhere. It's like, here's all the benefactors at whatever level. And so you had so-and-so, Hy-Vee at I don't know what it was, $1 million, and other large donor came in for 50,000. And my son asked me, he's like, well, what's that, Dad? He's like, is that all the people that gave money to build this? I said, yeah, it is. And I said, do you know what that wall would look like for the one in the city of Urbandale? And he said, no. He's like, it would just have one for the taxpayers.
Taxpayers. Thank you to the taxpayers.
Yeah. So there was a lot of reasons that went down.
Yeah.
The price tag being one of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what, I know, what was the you talked about the conversation you had, but have you always had a passion about taxes, income taxes? I
consider myself a full spectrum conservative, right?
Right.
I mean, I care passionately about a whole host of conservative issues. I have always thought that taxes were important. And one of the reasons I think it touches everything let me back up a minute. We're in a battle of worldviews, right? We've got sort of a conservative worldview about how we think this country became great and how it can continue to be great in the future, which is limited government, sort of traditional values, kind of the classic idea of America and conservatism, and this opposing worldview, which is this neo-leftist, radical changes to the size and scope of government and of the values that we've had. I mean, the whole drill. I don't need to tell you about the battle between right and left and conservatism, but I think that, and there are a lot of righteous battles to be fought inside of that, but taxation and the size and scope of government touches all of that. And I know there's a lot of conservatives that I care about, the issues of gender and how we do that. I'm with you guys, right? There are issues of education policy, school choice, and I'm absolutely, I got 3 kids at Des Moines Christian. I'm with you 100%
right.
on those issues. And I've fought on those issues. But I think one thing that arches over all of that is when we give all of this money to government, we're enabling the government that grows. And when government grows, it crowds out all these other things that we care about. The institutions that will keep our country and our society what we know it needs to be is when we have strong families, we have strong communities, we have strong churches. Those are the things that make us great, not our great government.
Yeah.
And so it is not only is just taxation making it fair, making us grow better, but from a philosophical level about how we view the world around us, we're keeping government constrained in its place. We need a, and I said this earlier, we need a government that can function, that can provide the services that we all agree it needs, and probably not much more, and they have to happen. But we should not continue to pump our hard-earned dollars into having that government grow and dwarf those other institutions, those other parts of our life.
What services do you think the government should provide?
Part of it isn't just what I think. I think we have to contend with what I think the vast majority of folks think it does. Look, I'm an attorney by trade, right? I think we need a court system. I think we need a system that if somebody commits a crime, there's a judge they go in front of and are, adjudicated, right? And whatever else. So we need a court system. I think we need to run free and fair elections that are funded, and whatever it costs to do that, they have to be done. I think we need to have a correctional system. If you commit a crime, you're going to jail, and you're going to stay there, and it's going to be well funded and run. I think we have police and fire services on our streets. I some of those things, I know there is a more strident libertarian view that maybe some of those things we could do on our own. And I'd be happy to entertain that idea, and I've thought about it, but I'm not sure that our society's ready for some of that. I think we just kind of think that if we call 911, the police are going to show up. Right. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. You don't want to have to look up the directory for your neighborhood to see which developer provides the security.
Right. I mean, we have roads.
Right.
Where I disagree is some of the other things. Do we need an expansive bureaucracy and all the regulatory scheme that goes with it? Can we rethink that? Do we need to send, hundreds of billions of dollars to other countries around the globe? I mean, these are things that I know there's got to be a better way.
Yes, for sure. What do you think about Doge?
I'm ready for it. Again, because I'm skeptical about government.
Yeah.
And I'm as excited to see what President Trump can do in a second term as anybody. But I've seen it at the state level in Iowa, and I know they do it even better at the federal level, where the bureaucracy and the powers that be, and call it the swamp or whatever you want, they're really good at running out the clock. They're really good about hiding the ball and shit. And I don't want to be too pejorative about it and too derogatory, because there's good people trying to do good work. But they're really good at bobbing and weaving and dancing around. And like right now, the federal bureaucracy is trying to figure out a way to count down 4 years.
Oh, sure.
And get back and survive. And they're good at it.
Yeah.
So I think they will find things to cut. I expect to not have all of my hopes fulfilled.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. I do think that with Elon and Vivek, with Elon and Vivek on board, that they've shed so much light on some of the crazy spending.
Yeah.
And there's so much more transparency now. And it was pretty awesome that they got that bill, the 1,500-page bill. Vivek read it, told everybody what was in it, and then they were able to block that and come back with something a little more reasonable.
I think the really awesome opportunity that exists with those two guys, and I think especially Elon, is the general public, whether they're even really political or not, sees them as really smart guys.
Right.
They might not agree with them on everything, but I don't think anybody looks at Elon and says he's just a fool and doesn't know what he's talking about, right?
Exactly.
I mean, look at everything he's done. And so if he says this is a waste, like I think everyone kind of instinctively says, well, I probably ought to figure out whether I think that's, I'm not just going to dismiss it because he's Trump's guy. I'm going to actually interact with that idea. And so there's a credibility of the ideas that they get probably a fresh look where other people might not. It'd just be dismissed as conservative.
And Vivek has done such a great job with articulating the issues and even debating on legacy media with the far left in such an intelligent way.
Yeah, he's fascinating. It is rare to find these folks that can communicate and defend what they believe like he can.
Yeah.
It is so refreshing. And there was a couple times, I remember specifically in the caucuses, and he would have this bit. I know one was when he was at Grinnell College, and one of these students came out and he's just walking back to the car and kind of challenges him, and he just stops. And while they're walking, but just, okay, let's talk. And just, when do you see a presidential candidate doing that? And just click through all of it. Yeah. And in the course of 2 or 3 minutes, we're like, well, wait a minute. Maybe there's some common ground here. Maybe the things that I assumed about you aren't true. And he also did it, I saw with a anti, a pro-choice activist. I think it was here in town somewhere. And it's just, and by the time that this person that's coming at him, this anger is coming at him, has disarmed him or her, but disarmed them with ideas.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just a respectful, this is what I believe, and just an amazing ability to cut through that we need.
I wish I had it. I mean, I'm sometimes a good listener, but the way he does it is so masterful because he listens. He says, hey, well, tell me what your opinion is and why do you think that? And then ask some great questions and really just kind of, it's very transparent, very compassionate. And the way he does it is just artful.
And I think one of the things that you have to be able to do that is you have to have a ton of knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
And you can tell he has it, that he knows all of those things, all of those arguments. And so he's already sort of thought through all of those things before the question even comes. And so when it does, he's just ready to calmly lay it out.
Yeah, he's the type of guy that you can give him 5 points about something and then he'll just go out and give a speech on it.
Like he said,
I'll read a book. Yeah. And I'll think, man, now I think this differently. Yeah. But it's harder to articulate it. It's like, oh, now I got to go underline and highlight and figure out what my points are and everything. But I think he just pulls it out.
I think
and
that's
just has it.
But he is an exceptional talent.
Very exceptional. I was excited to hear that they were teaming up to do that.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting the other thing about Elon. I mean, we can talk about this stuff all day.
Sure.
But how much the national or international political conversation, we're getting ready to inaugurate a new president who is probably one of the more, we'll call him lightning rod presidents we've ever had. I mean, everybody's got an opinion about Trump.
Right.
And yet much of the conversation about where we're going on policy centers around Elon.
Yeah.
That he's such a figure here that it's almost like for the first time since Donald Trump came on the scene, almost the focus part of it's over here on somebody else. And, look, we elected Donald Trump. I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated to see how that all factors into the politics of it.
And Elon's another guy that's immune to those ridiculous attacks that Trump has been under. Yep. Trump's been under attack since before he was elected in 2016.
Yep.
And Elon, he's so smart. And so, I love what he had to say to Disney at that conference. If you don't want to advertise, go whatever. You're not going to blackmail me with money.
I think one of the things that, I've been involved in politics and elections and run tough campaigns. And look, I love to see conservative leaders. I want to vote for conservative leaders that believe what I believe. But in the age of Trump, one of the things that I have also very much come to look for in candidates and appreciate is that what you're talking about is that this is what I believe. And I'm not going to get distracted by the noise. I'm not going to get distracted by you shooting arrows at me. I'm going to do this and I don't care. You can try and cancel me. You can try and knock me down. And I'm not going to fight this battle on the left's terms. And I have grown to appreciate sometimes when there's candidates that have that I may even disagree with them on a few issues because I know they're going to go stand up and fight.
Yeah, not just arrows, bullets.
Right. And so, exactly.
I mean, when he popped up from just being nicked in the ear and shouted, fight, fight, fight with blood. Yeah. I mean, I was in tears.
I think a lot of us were like, yep, I'm all in. Yep. I am going to fight. I'm with you. Let's go.
Yeah, and it's been a process for me with Trump. I mean, I was a libertarian back in 2016, and I didn't like his, public persona or even his TV show. But by 2020, I thought, holy cow, or 2018, he was knocking things off his list that he promised he would do, and really a lot of things off my list. And now, after seeing how resilient he is and has been under this, the legacy media that is really no longer journalists. They're activists for the far left. They, nobody that I know could survive those kind of attacks.
He is a force of will that is just amazing. That's right. And similarly, I mean, President Trump is. Look, I'm going to disagree with him on things over the next 4 years. I'm sure that you will. I think everyone should. I mean, because we're all broken people that don't necessarily, fall short. But he has never changed at any point on his resolve, and I think much in how he'll be remembered. And part of the reason that I'm still supporting him at the level he is this the line that he's used over and over, that they're not coming after me, they're coming after you. I'm just the one that's standing in the way. I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And it's true. So I'm all in. Let's see where we go from here.
We'll see what happens. I mean, it's going to be an interesting next 100 days will be interesting. Next 2 years will be interesting. And maybe, some people that were skeptical will feel differently in a couple of years or within a couple of years.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But.
No, I think there's been a reset on where the center of gravity is in American politics. I always believed that Americans was sort of a center-right country in general. And, in a post-Trump world, and you saw how crazy things got, after COVID, and especially with some of the social changes and upheaval. I was like, well, maybe not. Maybe we've drifted to the left. But I think now seeing President Trump come back, seeing some of the issues that campaign was litigated on, so I think we're a center. I think we're the country that we have been for a while, and I think Americans want some normalcy back, and hopefully we can get that back. So
they do, and I think so many people were just so relieved after the results of the election. Yeah, and I know there were some that weren't, but it was nice for people to see that the silent majority was really the majority. Yeah. And there were people, Democrats and independents voting for Trump that didn't before. Yeah. It was pretty amazing. Yeah. So this, the front page of taxrelief.org, is this what you're going to be lobbying for and pushing for? And
it's a pretty simple message. It's a 2% hard spending cap on city and county government. Happy to entertain anybody else's ideas. You're going to hear a lot of different things and proposed, I think, in the legislature. But I think at the end of the day, I have to keep in mind, is this going to constrain their ability to spend?
Now, do you have, are there legislators that have already put this through or putting this through LSA?
Yes. And I don't want to obligate them to because they haven't filed it. But yes, I know for a fact that there will be a bill introduced that has that in it. I know in the House, and I'm not sure yet on the Senate, but we'll get there. But I know there are plenty of legislators in both parties that are committed to doing this, and I'll give credit our leaders in there. And I haven't seen hard proposals come out yet, but they're saying the right things. Okay, about we need bold action. I know that's what Speaker Grassley has said. And I know even in side conversations that he understands that we're going to have to make some local governments uncomfortable in the process. Of course. Because there's no other way to do it, right? Somebody has to do with less.
Right. And this will affect property taxes across the board, residential, commercial.
Right.
Et cetera.
One thing, if I could take a moment to plug, is we have another website. So taxrelief.org is ITR's website. Okay. And then we have the itrfoundation.org, which is more of our think tank kinds of things. But we have a major project that we've been working on for a couple of years now, which is called itrlocal.org. And
let me see if I can.
Yeah. So this is supposed to be a one-stop look at where is the money going? Is my community doing this? So like it's all dropped down up there in the top where, you can plug in your city, your county, or your school. Oh, okay. And you can, so if you wanted to say, pull up Clive, for example. Yeah, let's look at there's Clive. A lot of cities, so it can get a little tough to navigate. But what it will have is a look at, you're going to have a line chart, which shows the red one on the top this is property tax revenue, over the last 10 years. What we attribute reasonable growth would be, and it's population plus inflation, and to get a look at this. And then if you go down the page, you can see how it's grown in some bar charts over time, population, and the breakdown of where all of the dollars are going.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that's
amazing.
Yeah. We don't have that.
How long did it take you guys to build this?
Well, I didn't have to do any of the building.
You didn't build it?
I full credit to our, the development team at Iowans for Tax Relief. It's been a major project. We have a lot of time invested in this. And so one of the things that Caleb, you talked about, and I know some other folks that are listening have probably run into Caleb, his job is to sort of talk about this project on about this ITR local. So I can tell you that the city of Clive, well, probably some of the lines don't great, actually is one of the, we say it's unreasonable, not as bad as some of the other actors across the state. But anyway, but we've got.
So what is this telling me about the city of Clive?
This is telling you that over the past decade, the population has grown 10.6%. Inflation over that period of time has grown by 32.7%. And therefore, we would say that a reasonable amount of property tax growth would be those two numbers combined.
Okay.
Which is 43.2%. But your property taxes have grown 56.4%.
Okay.
And
so it's above the statewide average.
Right.
You have that down there too.
Yep. So it has grown. I mean, there's other factors. And we don't. The biggest goal with all of that, one, is just to provide the information. But secondly, to hopefully there's a button there that says contact your city council. Hopefully to start a conversation with somebody and their local elected officials. Say, hey, I saw these numbers. I saw that my property tax bill is going up. Can you tell me where are those dollars going? And we would rather start those conversations than have to do those on behalf of everyone at every local level. Because like I said earlier, we can't fight 900 city budget fights.
So how do we fight that? How do the local citizens fight that?
There's a great question. And
I mean, you can show up, you can speak your mind.
Yep.
I guess, when it comes to voting, you can vote for a council person who is in favor of trying to lower taxes and
all of those things.
Yeah.
I think you also need to not just have the conversation with electeds, but have the conversations with your friends and neighbors.
Right.
That, hey, I found this information. I mean, a lot of us have those side conversations like, man, I had to pay my property tax. Did you see this? It was crazy. Well, you know what? There's a website that kind of shows where some of this is coming from, but have those conversations with neighbors, friends. I think another one too, that folks is don't be afraid to reach out to an elected official. And if you have a relationship with them, like ask them if you can buy him a cup of coffee.
Right.
And show up there. Like so much of this.
I don't think people understand how open elected officials are to doing that.
Yeah. It's get to know these folks. They're real people that live in the community just like you do. They may not agree with you on everything, but, look, there's folks on the other side of the aisle when I was at the state legislature that I genuinely enjoyed talking to them. There were things we agreed about and could work through and bounce ideas off of that. There's things that we're going to fight like cats and dogs on, but I generally think they're trying to work it out the way they think is best, like we are. So, but go up and at the legislature, for the folks that have been up to visit at the Capitol, just walk up there, send in a note and talk to your legislator. It's great. But the same mechanism should be available to us at the local level. And, maybe they don't want to go have a cup of coffee with you, but at least you've try to do it in a personal way without it just being combative. Like, oh, you guys are robbing me and taking all my money and you don't care. Well, let's maybe not start with that. Let's just say, hey, I want to get to know what makes this work. Don't
send the email I sent to the Waukee City Council when they were trying to do the mask mandates on everybody. I did get some good responses from it. So there's a space here for people to sign up for the newsletter. What is the newsletter? What do you send out?
Yeah, we get we have various different newsletters. We've got the one that we just went out this morning. Iowans for Tax Relief has the Watchdog, which you get more of that during the legislative session because that's where we do a lot of that work. And then we have our ITR Foundation newsletter. It's got more of the really deeper substantive work. And from time to time, there's things we send out through this list. Maybe when it comes to the budget hearing time, like make sure you know about your hearing. You're getting your notice in the mail. Make sure you see it. Those kinds of things. Definitely. So we really try to be.
Well, I'm going to sign up right
good.
now.
I think you should. I'll just I'll filibuster here while you type. But no, we really do try to be judicious about how we use that list. You're not going to get, daily text messages from us. You're not going to get, we really do try and reserve that when we think there's information that folks know that they need to know, or, we've got new work that we're putting out and we're proud of our research and the things we do. And so we send out regular emails about that.
When you're on a really cool podcast,
that's
link to the episode.
Yeah, we're going to push this out. So it's way cooler than when I try and publish it on my own. We actually have some production quality on here, so it's great. No, it's good. We'd love to have it if you're interested at all in that information.
Yeah,
please sign up.
I'll include all these links in the description.
Great. But yeah, we really like you noticed, we've got a lot of. We're heavily invested in this ITR local initiative. It's more than just the website. It is getting folks, and
it's important. It's so important. People don't realize how much their voice matters.
And like if we really want to geek out about philosophy of government, and this goes back to the nation's founding. If you're a student of that, read Alexis de Tocqueville. He thought that was so unique about the American experience and the American form of government was folks getting involved at the very local level, and we can't lose that.
So. And I try to encourage people to go to their school board meetings and go to their local meetings. I think it's important. And I think I'm going to hit a city council meeting here soon for sure. Yeah. I need to get together with Eric Klein anyway.
Yeah.
We keep talking about having coffee. And,
I've known Eric for a long time.
I run into him all the time at different meetings.
Yeah. He's been really involved and he knows a lot of stuff about, especially here in Clive, but good guy. It's, but yeah, folks should stay involved.
Yeah. I'm going to have Representative Gelbach over tomorrow night to interview. Yeah. We'll probably have a couple bourbons.
You should do that.
What should I ask him? After I get him loosened up a little bit.
You should ask him what he's going to do to cut your property taxes this year.
There you go.
Like, come on, we used to, that was a joke we had years ago. We had my law firm, we had Matt Whitaker and Bill Gustoff, who's now Representative Gustoff, and myself were a law firm.
Sure.
And I was going up to the Capitol and coming back, and almost every time I'd walk in the door, he's like, Whitaker would be like, you cut my taxes yet? It's every time he'd come in. So I've kind of borrowed that one, and I was just asking, you cut my property taxes yet? So
that's what everyone should say to their legislators when they see them.
That's right.
And their supervisors.
Yeah, no, Representative Gelbach's doing a great job. I'm very proud to support him.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Fantastic.
I really appreciate it.
Hopefully we can do it again sometime. It's a lot of fun.
Let's check in later in the session and see how it goes.
Happy to do it.
All right. God bless you.
God bless you too.
Yep.